I'm like, all these liberal guys are just getting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just getting cute.
Let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, Bruce.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Bisbal.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Councilmember Gazelle.
Here.
Mayor Kujarski.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick.
And we have an email from Matt Seeley. I need a motion to excuse him. He's on a trip that he planned 6 months ago.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. On page 3 to 6 are the minutes from the October 17th meeting. Please take a quick look at them, and if there's no discussion, I need a motion to approve.
Before we're doing that, just as a note, from now on, under new business, we're going to have the Grosse Pointe Improvement Foundation report. So today it'll be under 13C, but in the future, I think the minutes reflected that we made that change last month to include the Grosse Pointe Improvement Foundation, a short
Okay, good.
info session. So, okay, so today it'll be under 13C, and in the future, it'll always be under new business.
Okay,
I don't know if that makes any change to the minutes. Okay.
I don't think not as they're stated, so.
Okay.
A motion, was there a motion to approve? A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. And then on page 7 to 14 are different commission minutes, the pension meeting, some other committee minutes. Again, we're accepting them in the public domain. I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment. Any public comment?
I know this is going to be a long meeting, so I'll try to be very brief. I'm Gloria Antone. I want to talk about an incident that happened at my home a couple of weeks ago that involved our police department. It was a very late Halloween night, and I was watching the hockey game, and I heard a beeping. And I thought, what's going on? So I finally found it was the carbon monoxide detector in my bedroom that was beeping, and I thought, oh, Lordy. So I pulled it out, checked it, put it back in, beep, 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 beep. And it said at the very top to call 911 or the police. And I thought, this was an old detector. It could be defective. So I went back to was watching the game, and I thought, should I call or not? Went to the phone, dialed, hung up. I thought, I called again, and I explained what the problem was. Seconds later, it seemed, 3 policemen arrived at the house. They came in with the monitor. And they said, they went into every room down in the basement. They shut off the furnace, shut off the water supply, and they said, the levels are very high. You have to leave. You got to get out. This is too high. They said, do you feel? I said, I feel fine. They said, no, you got to get out. We opened up windows and doors and aired out the house. And of course, my German Shepherd was not very happy to have all these people in the house. But they said, you got to get out. I said, I'll sleep in the car in the garage. I said, I can't leave with my Shepherd anyplace. By that time, it's about 11:30. I tell you, these officers were kind, efficient, polite, and I felt very well cared for. And they called DTE. The guy came, and he went down to the basement, found out what the problem was with the furnace. And I tell you, I felt very relieved. We have an excellent police department, but excellence comes from the top. And I have to thank Director Schulte, and he's got a marvelous crew. So I wanted to let you know that we are very blessed to have such a great police department in our midst. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? How far from where the detector was to where you were watching the hockey game?
Well, I've got floor vents. And what had happened when the DTE guy came, what happened, the vent down in the basement had separated. So when the furnace was on, everything was going into the basement and coming up through the vents.
The
Glue pipe for the furnace.
oh,
Right,
boy.
right,
Oh,
it
wow.
had separated.
okay, okay.
But I had no ill effect. They kept on saying, "Do you have a headache?" I said, "No." "Do you feel nauseous?" I said, "No." I said, "I feel fine." That's why I thought there was really no problem. But of course, you can't smell it. So I have to thank those guys for me being able to stand here and say what great guys they were. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
What a nice story.
Again, that's another extraordinary example of the fine service that we have, that public safety provides every day to keep us safe and secure in our houses. But thank you, Gloria. Dr. Angeloni was going to get his proclamation, a small gift of appreciation for his 6 years of service, but apparently he's apparently not going to come to this meeting. We'll get him at another meeting, at the December meeting. But we have a nice plaque, and again, it's just a small token of our appreciation. You know, he served as a city council member from 2011 to 2017. He was a public relations council liaison. I mean, he proceeded to exemplify the meaning of loyalty to one's community. I mean, he's a board-certified anesthesiologist at Providence Hospital in Southfield. He's affiliated with other multiple hospitals, including St. John's Hospital in McLaren. His medical degree was earned from Wayne State School of Medicine. He's been in practice for over 20 years. And then Dr. Angeloni, after earning his medical degree, followed with completing his anesthesiology residency program at Providence Hospital in Southfield, and then a Payne Fellowship at Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis, and is board certified in anesthesiology and pain management, and is a member of Michigan Pain Management. And so therefore, on behalf of the city, we're very proud to present this proclamation, and we will have Dr. Angeloni come in person to receive it at one of the following council meetings. But again, we're very, very pleased for him, his wife, Carol, his children, Alexandra, Olivia, Jess, and Audrey. And again, we're very appreciative of the fine service that he gave our city during those 6 years. I just hope I don't need the pain management clinic anytime soon. So, well, the next item on the agenda is we have two incumbent council members who are going to come up and recite the oath of office. And so,
Can't we just say yes?
Bob, Bruce. Nancy Lee again is on a trip to the Middle East, and he will be present at the next meeting. We'll see him right here. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Robert Brett,
Okay, do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
to affirm and follow
to affirm and follow
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of
the
America,
Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the city charter and ordinances of the Village of Grosse Pointe Shores,
State Charter and ordinances of the Village of Grosse Pointe Shores,
Michigan City. Okay, to the best of your ability,
to the best of my ability.
congratulations.
All right.
Those are the best can't Both Bob and Bruce are going to be starting their 7th year of service. And again, we're very appreciative for all the hard work that they do for the city. Now, at this point, Aaron, we have Aaron Stevens here, our beloved auditor. On agenda item 9, he's going to present our 2017 draft audit report.
Thank you. It is just a draft. We received the actual report for the OPEB plan just last week. So I wanted just a couple more minutes to make sure that we've got our I's dotted and T's crossed on it, but very comfortable with the financial statements. It's the note disclosures that we'd like another chance to read through before we finalize. But what I've done is prepared a presentation handout, as I have in the past, pulled out some excerpts out of the financial statement report, added some charts and graphs, I've highlighted a few things. But I promise I'll be brief. A couple of general comments. Our thanks to Rhonda, Mark, and the rest of the city staff for their courtesy, cooperation, and assistance. Field working very well, as usual, so we do appreciate all the help. What I plan to do tonight is highlight what I think are the key areas, but if you have questions, feel free to stop me at any time. We can go through those. Pages 1 through 3 of the presentation handout make up the independent auditor's report. The purpose of an audit is to express opinions on the financial statements. The purpose of an audit is not to detect fraud or give you an opinion on your internal controls. Fraud detection, deterrence, and prevention, as well as sound internal controls, are management's responsibility. Management is also responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements, and I've highlighted that sentence there in the second paragraph. That also includes the internal controls over the preparation and presentation of the financial statements. Our responsibility as auditors is to express opinions as to whether we believe the financial statements are prepared or presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. In the next highlighted paragraph, the last paragraph on page 1 of the presentation, the Grosse Pointe Shores Improvement Foundation financial statements were not audited, but they are included in the city's report because of their relationship with the city. They are reported or presented as a discretely presented component unit. The foundation is only audited every third year, and so that's coming up for 2018. They'll have audited financial statements. So because they weren't audited, we had to disclaim our opinion on that piece of the financial statements. On page 2 of the presentation handout, we did express unmodified opinions on the primary government's or the city's financial statements. And that's the second paragraph that's highlighted there. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide for a set of financial statements. That's as good as it gets. It's a clean opinion. The financial statements are presented fairly in all mature respects in accordance with GAAP. I also highlighted a sentence in the next paragraph down, change in accounting principles. GASB Statement 74, which relates to the OPEB plan, financial statements, and really this is just a note disclosure this year. GASB Statement 75 will become effective for next year, and that'll actually impact the government-wide financial statements of the city. But 74 just relates to the plan financial statements themselves, and more specifically the note disclosures and related schedules. So highlighted the fact that there is some additional information in the 2017 audit. Page 3 is just the remainder of the independent auditor's report. Then we get into pages 4 and 5. We have the government-wide financial statements. These are prepared on the full accrual basis of accounting. They primarily have a long-term focus. They're prepared once a year for the audited financial statements. So you don't see this level of reporting throughout the year. The statement of net position is a snapshot as of June 30th, 2017 of assets, deferred outflows, liabilities, deferred inflows, and net position. I've highlighted just a couple of things here. I didn't plan to spend a lot of time on the government-wide financial statements, but I did want to highlight, because it was new a couple of years ago, the net pension liability, and then we have deferred outflows related to the pension plan, as well as deferred inflows related to the pension plan. But wanted to highlight the fact the net pension liability as of June 30th, 2017 was a total of $6.8 million. That's about $1 million better than it was last year. So that number is decreasing. The deferred inflows and outflows are related to the timing of recognition to various components of the pension expense. So those have changed as well, but you did improve the net pension liability by $1 million. On page 5 of the presentation, page 2 of the financial statement report, we have the statement of activities. This is the operating statement, again, a government-wide financial statement. Covers the 12-month period that ended June 30th, 2017. A little backwards because it starts with expenses. As you read left to right, you add back in your program revenues to come up with a net expense or net revenue in the right-hand columns. As you read down the page, you add back in general revenues. So the results for the year is that change in net position, pretty similar to the 2016 results, where you used net position for governmental activities about $2.5 million, and the business tab activities added to net position $333,000. But as I said, the government-wide statements are prepared once a year. You don't see that level of reporting throughout the year. It's just for the audited financial statements. The more familiar presentation for you would be the fund level financial statements, and those start on page 6 of the presentation handout. The governmental funds financial statements are on pages 6 and 7. Governmental fund financial statements are prepared on the modified accrual basis of accounting, so they have a current financial resources focus. What you don't see on the balance sheet here, again, a snapshot is of June 30th, 2017, but you don't see capital assets, you don't see long-term debt, you don't see that net pension liability. It's really just current financial resources and current liabilities. I focus on the general fund as the operating fund for the city, and specifically I like to look at fund balance, the equity portion towards the bottom of the page there. And there are, or could be, 5 components of fund balance. Your total fund balance as of June 30th was $1.8 million. Portions of that $1.8 million have been earmarked for specific things. What you've got left is the assigned and unassigned portions of fund balance. Management can assign and unassigned fund balance at will. So we group those together and collectively refer to that as unrestricted fund balance, because you don't have any external parties telling you can't spend that fund balance on anything else. So you've got, if you add those 3 numbers together, it's $1,765,000 of unrestricted fund balance. That's the assigned for capital outlay, assigned for subsequent years' expenditures, and the unassigned portions, $1,765,000. And I compare that with your annual expenditures, as well as your transfers out to other funds, which is $5.6 million plus $195,000 in transfers out. That unrestricted fund balance represents 30.2% of your annual expenditures and other financing uses. Excellent position to be in. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends maintaining a general fund balance equal to a minimum of 2 months of operations, and 2 out of 12 months is about 17%. You're at 30, which is, again, excellent position to be in.
Aaron, you're showing the Improvement Foundation as a non-expendable endowment on that sheet. So that's excluded. I mean, it indicates that, I'm just looking at the term endowment.
Right, they've got some contributions that they can't touch the principal on. They can spend the
Oh, so
interest.
Okay, that's how you determine that
Yeah.
number.
On page 7 of the presentation handout, we've got the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. This is the income statement for the governmental funds, operating statement. Again, focusing on the general fund. Overall activity is higher than a year ago. Revenues 8.3% higher than the 2016 revenues. Expenditures 5.4% higher than the 2016 expenditures. Net results for the year, you added to your fund balance $336,300. Last year, the prior year, you added $191,449. In fact, you added to your general fund balance in each of the last 5 years. And you can see that in a graph on the next page, page 8 of the presentation handout, a 5-year trend for the general fund revenues, expenditures, and total fund balance. Added to fund balance in each of the past 5 years. 2014, you do see a spike in activity that is related to the Honeywell project. And then in 2015, it's kind of back down to normal operations. But you've maintained a healthy fund balance, and that's good to see. On page 9, a couple of pie charts that detail the composition of your general fund revenues and expenditures. Very consistent with the prior year. 2017 revenues, 78% was from property taxes. In 2016, it was 73%. So the majority of the revenue comes from your property taxes. On the expenditure side, public safety is at 40%. It was 41% in 2016. General government at 20%. It was 21% in 2016. And then public works at 14%. It was 16% in the previous year. So again, consistent in terms of composition from last year to this year. Pages 10 and 11 of the presentation handout, we get into the proprietary funds. Proprietary fund financial statements are prepared on the full accrual basis of accounting, much like the government-wide statements. The difference between proprietary funds and governmental funds, you expect proprietary funds to cover their operations through user charges, their operating expenses through user charges. Both the Water and Sewer Fund and the Marina Fund saw improvements in 2017. So again, we focus on the equity section, the net position, and specifically the unrestricted net position. For the Water and Sewer Fund, the unrestricted net position was just over $1 million. That represented 47.6% of your operating expenses for that fund. Last year, you were at 37.5%. So it did improve there. The Marina Fund, the total net position is still negative, just at $14,000. Last year was at $120,000 negative. So you've improved in the total net position, but the unrestricted portion at $336,000 is now at 272% of your operating expenses. Again, higher than last year. Last year's at 140%. So improvement all the way around. It is still negative in total. What that tells you is that you're depreciating your capital assets faster than you're paying off the debt related to those capital assets. And I have a graph on that in a couple minutes. It'll give you a visual perspective of that. on page 11, we get into the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net position. Again, an income statement for the proprietary funds. Overall activity for the water and sewer fund is higher than 2016. Your revenue is 6.3% higher, your expenses 7.2% higher, and you improved your total net position by $227,000. The marina fund overall activity is actually lower than the previous year. Revenues decreased about 14.6%, but expenses also decreased about 13.2%. You still added to your total fund net position $106,332. So as I said, I have a couple of graphs related to each of these funds. On page 12, the water and sewer fund, you can see the last 3 years of this graph, 15, 16, and 17. You've got an upward trend in total net position, and you can see the breakdown between invested in capital and unrestricted, both improving. So both on an upward trend, as well as the unrestricted net position compared to expenses also has an upward trend for the last 2 years. So that, again, nice to see that positive financial results there. The Marina Fund on page 13 of the presentation handout, total net position is improving over the last few years. You went from your investment in capital assets is remaining negative, so that's related to depreciation versus the payment of the debt. But the unrestricted net position is growing, is improving. So overall, because your current assets are higher than your current liabilities for the Marina Fund, you aren't required to file a deficit elimination plan with the Department of Treasury. But again, we'll keep an eye on this. We are improving, but the total net position is still negative as of June 30th, 2017. The unrestricted net position compared to expenses also significantly improved over the last couple of years. You've got a dramatic upward trend there as well in that line graph on the bottom of page 13. Overall, very positive results for the year. I forgot one thing. Page 14 of the presentation handout, I already mentioned it earlier, but GASB Statement 75 will be effective for next year. This will impact the government-wide financial statements and the water and sewer fund. So we're going to bring the total liability related to the OPEB obligation onto the financial statements at that time. Currently, the liability that's sitting on the financial statements is just the unfunded ARC, or annual required contribution. The full liability will be required to be reported beginning next year, much like GASB 68 did for the pension plan. GASB 75 is doing for the OPEB plan. So not really good news, but we have to follow the rules. So that's coming up next year. But overall, very positive results for 2017. Again, we'd like to thank Rhonda for all of her help. Always a pleasure performing field work here. I'm sure she feels the same way. Everybody loves an audit. But it's really a pleasure to perform your audit at Grosse Pointe Shores. We enjoy our time here in the field, and we thank you for that opportunity, and the process has been a very smooth one. So.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions? I should note that in the Marina Fund, when you factor in, we had some extra repairs and maintenance because of the replacement of some of the docks. Then I know, we have a conservative position on depreciation. We had $81,000 of depreciation. When you really look at that, it pretty much is a break even though we weren't fully occupied even. So, I mean, I guess that's where our room for improvement is. If we can occupy or sell every well, we probably at $14,000. I think we had, 10 to 12 empty wells?
There's 9, I think.
So, it just, if we'd been able to lease those 9 wells, we would have had a positive, on an accrual basis, including depreciation, a net income balance. Okay. Anybody, I know a lot of hard work goes into this, and we appreciate you, Aaron, taking the time to explain, some of the key parameters affecting the city's financial metrics. And so, do you have any ideas how we can improve ourselves?
Oh, I think this year I thought was great. Overall, like I said, if you do sell those, if you sell at the marina, I think that'll help the unrestricted position. But once you start paying down that debt at a faster clip than what's being depreciated every year, the investment in capital assets will also turn around. So I think over time you're going to see that it'll resolve itself.
Okay,
Well, it's because we refinanced the bonds and we got rid of the interest only and then the increasing principal payments on on the marina bonds and got it to a level amortization period of it. And that's gonna improve that position because it's gonna go away over time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's never gonna make money.
Well,
It's
it's
an amenity of the community and its intent is not to be a marina on 9 Mile. It's a marina for the residents.
Right, no, I understand, but I think the objective would be to cover your costs. I mean, not make money, but at least cover the
We've,
expenses.
Bob's committee down there agreed to raise rental rates 3% for the next 3 consecutive years. So that should, if you,
Okay, that should-
the numbers that, even with the same occupancy, it's gonna get pretty close.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, you did improve even this year, you improved the total net position. So if you're raising rates at the same occupancy, you'll see it turn around quick.
and Aaron, I think we still have the most conservative investment rate of return for our pension plan and healthcare.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk.
So, well, if there's no further questions, Aaron, thanks for coming and
you.
explaining and working on our financial audit.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Okay. All right, the next item is, we have a public hearing, and,
Motion to receive and file it.
oh, okay, I invite a motion to accept,
One question, are we gonna then vote again in December? Cause
these are draft,
this is a draft, cause we're gonna the final,
We can hold it till December then. Yeah, that's fine.
because the audit opinion's not gonna be dated over the 20, I think he's,
26 or something.
yeah, the 24th or 26th, they're saying their field worker, their
Yeah, we'll
subsequent
put it
events.
on for the December, the official.
When do you have to file with Lansing, Rhonda?
By the end of the
Calendar year?
but I'm sure we'll have the final.
By then? Because he's gonna have to change his field audit date, right? I mean, he's still doing the 26th of December, I thought I saw.
24th, Christmas Eve, he's got, Christmas Eve is,
Audit opinion.
and that would be the last day of, field work then, so,
That's a subsequent event review, that's really late, you know?
later than we've typically had.
And we're not, that means we wouldn't be able to approve it till January.
Okay, I think that's right, because our next, meeting, his field work won't be complete.
We gotta file it in December.
Done. It's just, he needs to go through the notes and do a final check on everything.
So we're okay to put this on for the December agenda.
And make him change his date to our audit.
Oh, yeah, no, the dates will get changed.
Okay.
Yeah, because typically the signature date is the date of your last, field work, as far as I understand it, right, Bruce?
No, it's the date of subsequent event review.
Okay, well, which includes,
It's the last day of the work.
yeah, last day of working on it.
Right.
Okay, well, good.
Okay.
Well, the next item is the lot split at 707 Lake Shore. And I understand, Brian, that this is going to be, the council won't need a motion to sit as a ZBA, but we're going to be acting as a council, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so,
That's because it's a land division request and not a zoning request.
okay, so we're going to be voting on this as a council, not as a ZBA.
We'll be voting on it, interpreting what was originally provided to the planning commission and making a determination. And it really boils down to one word, which is rectilinear. So,
It's a new one for the thesaurus dictionary, okay. Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, Mary?
Good evening, and congratulations to the council and the mayor, and thank you so very much for the work that you do. It's not easy at times, and most of the time it's pretty hard. Thank you again.
Thank
all
you,
the
Mary.
citizens.
Thank you.
The item on the agenda is 707 Lakeshore Road for a lot split. Now, the gentleman, Dr. Hawasley, had been in front of the planning commission. This was the second time. It was denied. But they had found approximately 12 feet that they did not realize prior to that. However, it's still the rectilinear, which I always keep wanting to say reptilianer. And that is an L-shaped lot, which does not really comply with our ordinance, and also within the neighborhood. There were two objections, the neighbor next door and also behind them. They were objecting to the lot split. Again, it is not a rectangular type of a lot. It would be like an L-shaped, and both parties objected. The council, actually, the planning commission voted against the lot split again. And we are sorry that we have to do this, but again, we have to think of the community and the neighbors surrounding it. There were very nice people that presented this. However, again, it would be out of character for the neighborhood, and therefore, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to not to grant these lot split. If there are any questions, I don't know if the petitioners are here, but I guess not.
The only reason that you have that little chunk out front is to make the 100-foot
Frontage on like,
frontage,
on Lockport.
and then, but he couldn't run a line off that 100-foot, because then he won't meet the setback.
Correct.
Well, as you said, it's been before the planning commission several times.
Right.
I don't think there's any question in my opinion and in the planning commission's opinion that it does mean rectangular. We don't want a bunch of L-shaped lots around the city. And, I mean, I think he's trying to put in a, square peg in a round hole. And it just, I would certainly make a motion as and when it's ready that we define the term to mean rectangular, and that on that basis, we deny the application for lot split.
It seems everything depends on this term of geometry. And I guess our ordinances are silent as to what it really means. We can infer, I think, Brian, is that fair, that it's rectangular?
Yeah, the city planner earlier, before the planning commission last year and again this year, was of the opinion, after looking at the plain definition of rectilinear in Oxford Dictionary and going to reviewing other jurisdictions, nearby jurisdictions, definitions in their own ordinances, that a rectangle is always rectilinear, and rectilinear may be a rectangle, but you have an ordinance. It's section 16-265. It's the design standard ordinance, and sections 3, 5, and 6 of it cover this situation. It says, in a lot split situation, the resultant parcel shall not result in any panhandle lots of an unusual shape that are not in character and harmony with other lots in the immediate vicinity and are not detrimental to the development of adjacent lands. Section, that's sub 3, sub 5 is each resulting lot of a lot split like this has to be of location, size, layout, and character and configuration such that it'll be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding area in which it's situated. And then finally, the conformity, this is section 6, subsection 6, of the resultant parcels with neighboring sites is such so as to ensure the resulting parcels and proposed structures on the parcels will be in harmony with other lots and structures within the same block or the neighborhood or subdivision in such categories as setbacks, important, height, density, etc. And on that basis, the city planner last year recommended, and I believe the planning commission moved, that on the basis of noncompliance with section 16-265, that the recommendation of the city council is that the plan be denied. City planner came back this year with a very short memo dated October, I think it was October 18th. It was October of this year. And in essence, October 3rd, pardon me. No.
18.
Yeah. And in essence, recommended, the same conclusion based on the same set of facts, irrespective of this additional 12 feet that have been supposedly discovered.
Thank you, Brian, for that, for your statement on that. Our city planner has apparently also said that the resulting, if this is done due to its irregular lot shapes, that one or more variances may be necessary. So, again, the 2017 submittal shows a slight change, but again, our city planner feels that the ordinance is not met due to the irregular lot shape.
Those variances, I think, reading through the city planner's memorandum on that, would be down the line if there was a house proposed for one or more lots. The variances would probably be required.
But,
In the context of a lot split and land division, it's not a variance issue. It's, the variance comes into play when you're looking for
a building permit?
dimensional variance
Oh,
on
I see.
the building to be built on the property.
Because this would affect the square footage of the lot too.
Correct.
Such that the overall house, if it were to be built on the lot, would have to be probably smaller.
Smaller,
to
you
meet-
have setback issues.
Okay. Is the petitioner here, or is there any public hearing? I'd like it to open it up to public hearing. If anybody has any thoughts? This is a public hearing on this proposed lot split. If not, Bob, did you make a motion? To,
Wait,
or- oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Nick Bashand. I represent the landowners across the street from the parcel at 699 Lake Shore.
Okay.
And they are adamantly against the lot split, so just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. If there's no other public hearing, then I close that, and I invite a motion then to resolve this issue. Bob, did you make the
Yes.
motion?
Well, on the
Or-
basis of all of the items and findings of the planning commission as recently reiterated by our council, on that basis, I would recommend that the application be denied, that we determine that rectilinear is, for all intents and purposes, rectangular for determination of our ordinances.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? And again, a final attempt, if anybody wants to make a public statement, now's the time to do so. Okay, I invite a vote then. All those in favor of the motion made by Bob to affirm the action of our planning commission and follow the advice of our city attorney and our planning, city planner. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you, and welcome back, Robert. We miss you at the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Glad to see you.
Well, Rhonda, next item, finance reports by chairpersons.
Everyone. Well, since Aaron took such short time going through the audit, I thought I would spread this out a while, so. First of all, on your wire transfers, was nothing unusual for the month of November. If you have no questions on that, I'll move to the check register, which I was really shocked to see how many checks I did write since our last council meeting. On the first page of the check register, there's a check for $10,000 for the city of Grosse Pointe Woods, and that has to do with the public safety improvement plan for the woods and the shores to work on together.
How much are we paying that? How much are we paying overall? This is obviously the first installment. How much?
There's a grant of, what, 500,000 that will pay for the improvements there, but the grant does not pay for the engineering costs.
So how
So
much is that?
basically, our share of the engineering costs is 10,000, I think it was 23 total, might have been 26 total.
So this is be the only payment that we have for the improvements for the Grosse Pointe Woods? Yes? Okay.
Most likely, again, once this allows I would just want to make sure everyone understands, this allows the engineers to put the project out for bids and to make sure that it's encompassing, it fits within the grant total, which we've been told it is, but until I see the bids.
Okay.
Mark, have we signed a contract on this, or, what's the
We're
status
on a month-to-month basis with the,
with the farms?
with the farms, and they understand, they were originally part of this proposal. There has been language that the city attorney, the chiefs have worked out between the communities, city attorney's reviewed it, but until we formally proceed and we know that everything fits under the grants, that, at that point, we'll bring a contract back to council. And I will just say that the contract contemplated provides for significant input by the chief in hiring, discipline, et cetera, of the dispatch center. Their facilities are much newer, and while the farms participated in terms of the process, I didn't want to continue to participate, so.
So we'd have a dedicated person if we go forward on this? Okay.
We would have input into the hiring, discipline, et cetera, of any of their staff that would be in the dispatch area, as well as the follow-up. And of course, our changes were made a few years ago with the phone tree basis that cut our costs with, it's contemplated the cost roughly would be in the first year or two virtually what we're paying now. But we'll have a complete new facility with brand-new lockup, all new equipment in the E911 center, et cetera.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mark.
Well, has there been any talk about, obviously, when we moved to the farms, that was a little bit bigger city than this. The Woods is, way bigger. How are these 911 calls prioritized? Is it just in order, or, that's, I think, one thing that our residents are concerned with, that, you're in the queue way down if
No.
they've got 5 or 6 calls coming in because there's a much bigger city than we are.
There's been a substantial analysis of our volume of calls as well as theirs. There will be more staff and less, if any, wait time. And then they, of course, dispatch our facilities right away. And the standards were all included and upgraded in the contractual talks so far. So you'll see that once we've got a final contract, once we know everything fits under the budget. This will replace, it will be state-of-the-art in terms of equipment, storage, and ability to house prisoners, which isn't currently the case.
Okay.
Okay, on the second page of the check register, you'll notice a check for $42,000 to Pipe Tech Infrastructures. And this is the first payment to them for the sewer cleaning that they're working on right now. I know there should be a second payment coming across my desk soon for payment. On the third page, you'll notice the check to the City of Grosse Pointe Farms. That's the quarterly payment for the court, the dispatch, and the lockup per agreement. We did have also purchase some new computers, mainly relating to the GIS capabilities in the Public Works Department and with Tom upstairs. The $8,500 to Landscape America, that was reimbursed by the Improvement Foundation for the work on the landscapes on the break wall.
Did they pay for Madison maintenance directly, or did we
Yes,
pay?
they did directly.
Okay, so that's not in here.
It's the $50,000 check to Wayne County.
The $53,000,
For
yeah,
the
that's
Department of
our monthly fixed sewer charges.
And vehicle collision repair, was that one vehicle? Was it damaged,
Yes,
or
for $3,000.
for three?
George's Collision, I'm not sure which vehicle that was offhand.
Is that a,
Well, I just
George's
paid it
Collision.
November 1st, but
is that a public safety car?
That's the painting of the truck.
That's a truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at, he's like, who got in accidents?
That he didn't know about.
Yeah, it's check 1601, George, is that, okay, thanks. Well, are there any other questions? If not, I need a motion to accept this check register run.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thanks, Rhonda.
Also, I just finished printing the tax bills today, sorry.
Oh,
Jeez.
But they most likely will not go out into the mail until next week, Monday, which is plenty of time for it to arrive before they come due on December 1st. The water bills, we should be mailing those out mid-December, and they will be due the first week of January. I also like to remind you that the city offices are accepting donations for the Four Paws, One Heart group and also the Capuchin Soup Kitchen. Whether it's donated items or funds, we'll make sure they get them towards the end of the year.
thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you, and
Good report.
happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Bruce, you want to talk about what happened yesterday?
What happened to, in terms of the finance committee, they met yesterday. A couple of things to point out to everybody. First off, the inflation adjustment for property tax rates has been approved. It'll be, your taxes will be going up a minimum of 2.1% rate of inflation for next year, as opposed to 0.08% in the past year. So that will, that revenue will come forward. The audit report, one thing I don't think was glossed over was the fact that our revenues went up 8.3% and our expenses only increased 5.4%. Considering that we have, healthcare insurance premiums continue to rise, and we had a 3% contractual pay increases for our staff. So that was, we've done a very good job in terms of managing those assets. The year-end audit is going to produce a surplus, I think unassigned, of about $100,000, which we are planning to allocate to an increased pension plan contribution, increased retirement care retirement health care trust fund contribution. We do not need to increase the general fund balance any further, where we are currently, because we're at 30%, and our resolution only asked us to stay around 25%. So we're going to continue to fund those long-term obligations and go forward. We have $500,000 in our capital equipment account for capital equipment replacement funds, and we've replaced a dump truck, we've replaced a garbage truck, trash scooters, lawnmowers, plus we have a regular program for police vehicles being replaced. So I think in the last 6 years, we've done a really strong job of starting with a zero fund balance, adding $1.5 million to it, maintaining the tax rate, and putting all these hard asset improvements into the community. I think we've really done a remarkably good job. Last thing, we're going to talk about the actuarial report for the pension plan. The pension plan returned 7.71% return, despite the fact that some people think it should be 7%. I'm just teasing Ted, which is so that we're at basically 95% funded in our plan with with all our benefits recognized. So that is a very strong position to be in terms of our community. The conservative approach of 7% will do us well going forward, because not every day is sunny, as we all know, in terms of that. So, and the last thing is, I would want to commend the staff, all members of the staff, Mark, the chief, Brett, Ron, all of them, for the excellent job we've done this past year of managing our costs, providing the services with basically the same head count. We haven't increased our staffing levels in the 6 years we've been here. We've maintained our costs, kept them in line. They haven't increased faster than revenues, and we've gone through some really lean times in terms of revenue increases. Remember, 6 years ago, we lost 25% of our revenue because of the property tax changes. That hasn't come back to us yet. Next year, 2.1%. We're excited. Oh boy, 2.1%. And we know that home values in the shores are back to levels higher than they were before the recession. Rhonda was telling me the other day that we had 4 closings in 1 week in homes in the shores. So the real estate market is hot. So we're trying to catch up with that, but we managed to maintain those level of services and the dedication. The chief's staff and his personnel are the best we've ever had here. I think he's got the best equipment he's had in terms of that. So I'm proud of all those activities. So that's where we're going to go. Finance will meet again in December, and our big emphasis next year will be on road improvement and the park plan, obviously. The park plan is still in progress. We are looking at transferring money out of the major street fund to the local street fund. We think we have a way to do that to increase our revenue for local street repairs, and that's where we really need our focus. So we're busy, keep doing our stuff.
Bruce, can you explain, I'm sorry, the property tax increase? It's currently, because I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about this, it's currently at 0.08.
No, the increase that we are allowed by the Headley Amendment is a lesser of 5% or inflation. Okay. And the state publishes the multiplier number, and last year it was 0.8. This year they've come together, and the letter that they sent out says it's 2.1%. Okay. Now that assumes that your taxable value is below your assessed value. If your assessed value and your taxable value are the same, you're not going to be able, it won't go up. Those are for people who really bought a home in the last year.
Okay.
So you're going to see it, even if we don't raise the millage rate or change the millage rates, it'll go up 2.1%. That's automatic.
Well, good report, Bruce, good report. I mean, and that's consistent with Social Security. I believe they're going to be increasing their payments to Social Security recipients by 2% starting in January. I think in 2011, Bruce, we had 144 appeals in front of the Board of Review. And we had extra sessions and to deal with the large number. And last year, Mark, what did we have, 13, 14, 15? So,
We have four cases right now before the tax tribunal. And I think the total exposure of all of them is probably, what, $10,000? 15,000 maybe?
Tax dollars,
Yeah.
well, that's good stewardship. That's good government. So, well, thank you. And again, I echo what Bruce said about the cooperation, working with the department heads at all the finance meetings. Nobody's in the dark. Everyone's contributing. Everyone's looking and fighting to make sure our operating expenses are in line. We want to preserve our AAA bond rating. We signed a commitment that we would keep 25%, I believe, of our fund balance in essentially a retained earnings account, a rainy day account. Some people refer to it, and we have the commitment to do so. So, and what Bruce was talking about, the over 7.5, 7.7% rate of return in the pension commission, we're using a 7% factor. So our internal rate of return, our assumed assumption is 7%. And then we blend that over, we have a smoothing period, either a 3 or 4 year smoothing plan, so that no matter what the market's like, we essentially are averaging over 4 years to determine our pension contributions. So, again, I echo Bruce's words about the cooperation of all the key department heads, all the people working to deliver the high level of services that our residents expect, and then to deliver them in a cost-effective manner. Chief, Public Safety? I know you're anxious. I saw you ready to get up there, so.
We'll always have good reports here, so. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Since the last council meeting, the Public Safety Department has recorded the following activities. First off, I'd like to thank Gloria for her kind words for the public safety officers and command staff. We don't get many working fires in this neighborhood, although we had 2 in the last 3 weeks. But we answer a lot of these calls on carbon monoxide, careless cooks, et cetera, and many of them don't rise to a level where we would report them but we do answer a lot of those public service calls. So just briefly, the follow-up on the phone, Grosse Pointe Woods does not receive any real significant increased numbers of 911 calling that the Farms does. And one of the things that I wrote into the contract is that Grosse Pointe Woods will have a dedicated line, non-emergency line, that will be answered Grosse Pointe Shores Public Safety or Grosse Pointe Shores Police and Fire. So when the resident calls for a non-emergency line, they're going to think that they're speaking with a Grosse Pointe Shores employee. So, and like the city manager said, this contract is totally different than the last contract, and we have a lot more control over personnel, hiring, discipline, et cetera. So I'm rather excited about it, and we will at some point make a formal presentation with a PowerPoint as well. So recently, officers have observed and heard the report of numerous shotguns from the duck hunters on Lake St. Clair. We pay special attention to the ordinances and state laws in regards to them hunting within 450 feet of an occupied dwelling. And we have answered a couple of those. We've observed a few on patrol, and we continue to monitor that. Any questionable cases, we would consult with the DNR, and they have come out for us. So, as advised in an email, we have received a second donation from a resident on Crestwood. In her letter, she indicated that she was contributing. She had sent a prior contribution in 2016, and she sent one again citing exceptional EMS services. So on behalf of my officers, I'm extremely proud of their service to this community. In the last 3 weeks, as I've indicated in emails to you, we have had 2 house fires, both of which were quickly reported and quickly extinguished. Very briefly, on October 30th, we responded to the 500 block of Lakeshore on a chimney fire. We found that the resident had a fire all day Sunday, and the fire burned behind the wall throughout the night. When we arrived, the house was fully charged with smoke, and we quickly ventilated it and opened the family room wall and exposed 2 vertical 2x4s that had been completely consumed by fire, as well as there was a fireplace on the second floor, and then we had smoke and fire traveling to the second floor. So with the assistance of Grosse Pointe Woods and Grosse Pointe Farms, we extinguished that one very quickly. We started in the dark. By the time we finished, it was about noon or 1 o'clock. So the other one was on Willow Tree, was electrical in nature. It started in the dining room. Resident came home, fortunately, and reported it. Another 30 minutes, it would have been a completely different fire. So we were grateful to that we got on these quickly. And just to note, we've used at my request, we've used a local board-up company, a resident that lives in town, and we've gotten exceptional service from him. Very quick response, 20-minute response to these fire locations. So we are planning on continuing to use him. He's an excellent source for us. So. I wanted to report that a retired member of the Public Safety Department, Lieutenant Dan Franzak, a 34-year-old veteran of the department, passed away on October 29th after a brief illness. Several active and retired members of the department attended his funeral. Both of the new Ford Explorers are in service. I'm grateful to Brett and his mechanic, Scott DeGeer, for stripping the old vehicles and building the new vehicles. And I will tell you that for 2 cars, that saves us approximately $10,000 in costs. Now, Brett has to reschedule his time, and we are grateful that he can. We tried to sneak it in before leaf season, and we were successful there, but our thanks to DPW. The old vehicles are for sale. We're accepting sealed bids. Bids have to be in by December 8th, Friday, December 8th at 8 a.m., and we're hoping to sell those cars. We have a reserve placed on both of those vehicles. Both are relatively serviceable, but somewhat tired. So that's all I have, and I wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Do you have any questions?
Chief, any questions for the chief?
No, I just want to piggyback off of Gloria and what you said too, is don't be afraid to call 911. Our public safety people will not laugh at you. They will not think you're, silly for calling. So like you said, you toyed back and forth. Should I call? Shouldn't I call? You don't want to bother them. Don't be afraid to call if you suspect anything, because they're very welcoming to help.
And it just doesn't have to be a fire, or if you see a suspicious person on the street.
Right.
That can be a 911 call, because we want that reported immediately. That's a direct line, no waiting, right to the dispatcher, and that gives us a lead time on possibly apprehending him.
Yeah, if in doubt, call.
Absolutely.
Call. So, Chief, did we buy 2 cameras or a couple more cameras? I just looked at the check register.
Oh, that was for the service contract and repairs for the lightning strike at.
Oh, the one, okay, okay. Any other questions?
Just one comment, the fact that Scott does the vehicles, when something goes wrong, he knows right where to go.
Absolutely.
And the vehicles return to service within a very short period of time, so we're lucky to have Scott.
And many of the reports that you may have read in the paper where they've had carbon monoxide entering the cabins of these Ford Explorers, his work is so precise, and so the cabin is sealed when he's done, so that we have had no issues. And many of the other professional companies have had some recalls on these. It's not a Ford issue; it's a police build issue. So,
Great.
Grateful to it's excellent work.
Good. Thanks, Chief. Good report. Brett? I see some leaves on the street, so we're going to hear.
Yes, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and residents. Once again, I thank you on behalf of your Public Works Department to speak this evening. And you're right, the DPW has had all men on deck, and we've been extremely busy trying to keep up with the leaves that have decided to fall all at once. I don't know if you remember, it wasn't long ago, we had an 18-degree cold snap, and all of a sudden, right after that, all the leaves decided to drop. But then again, we also have some leaves that are holding on. I've talked to residents, or their leaves haven't started yet, so we've been quite challenged this fall. We've been able to keep up with the garbage schedule, picking up our leaves. This is something we started a few years ago, and it seems to be working out well. However, this probably will not be the case after this holiday. The guys are off Thursday and Friday. I'm going to try to talk a few of them into coming in on Saturday, and then we have our tree lighting on Sunday. So I'm sure we'll get caught up real quick after the holiday. As far as the holiday, the rubbish collection for Thanksgiving will be as follows. Wednesdays and Thursdays garbage will pick up will be tomorrow. Wednesday's recycling will be on schedule, and Thursday's recycling will be picked up Friday. I know that's confusing. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call regarding your rubbish collection or your leaf collection. And also, the cold weather snap that we had caught us by surprise in our marina. The marina had not been winterized when that cold snap came, and it did cause some damage to the water system at the marina. It took us a couple days to get things taken care of, but we had to make many repairs over there, and we were able to get the system blown out this Saturday. As a matter of fact, we just finished it, so I'm really glad to see that finally got done. We try to keep the water on until November 15th, but maybe in the future we might want to rethink that. I know the harbor closes on the 15th, but that cold snap came just like that, and it caught us off guard. You may have noticed our Christmas decorations are already set up. I think your DPW staff has done a great job of making our administrative offices and the city look very festive, and I think is going to put us all in the Christmas spirit. I'm also sure you've noticed the big storage container that's in the rear parking lot of our administration office. It's been there for a while, and this container's been there as a result of some police work. And it's my understanding the police are done with it now, and we are ready and able to move the container from the parking lot and transfer it to the storage area behind the DPW. We've been prepping the area back there, the area where it's to go. We're making sure that the foundation is set. We had to have an area to put it on. We've leveled some ground, and we've laid out some asphalt millings and compacted them. So we're looking to move it. We've contacted Official Towing. We've been trying to get back and forth and get them to come out and move it for us. They're very concerned with the soft ground that's back there and to get the equipment back there. I know there's been some correspondence going with that, but they were scheduled to do that tomorrow morning at 8:30, but I'm sure I'm going to get a call tomorrow morning because of the rain that it's going to be soft. I don't know if they're going to try to get it done before the holiday or not, but they're on a daily notice. They can come anytime to move this thing. But the equipment they need is basically a long roll-off container type vehicle. And what they're going to have to do is they're going to pick it up and move it around to the side, but then they're going to have to back all the way in through our soccer field. And I couldn't imagine trying to fix that up after we get a truck going through the mud back there. So as soon as we have the opportunity, we'll get that moved. And we're leaving that up to them. Let's see. Oh, I also want to say I know many of you will be happy when the container is out of view, and I thank everyone for their patience on us getting that moved. Also, the liner for the baby pool is in the park. The baby pool that is in the park is scheduled to be relined. We talked about that a month ago. Well, the liner came in today. So hopefully the company that's going to be doing the installation will be here in the next week or two to get that installed. And a big thank you goes out to the Improvement Foundation for funding this project. I'm currently working with DTE to set up an interruptible power service to our municipal complex. This should result in a significant savings to our electric bill. We tried this a couple of years ago and we're not able to get on the list, but I've had quite a lot of communications with DTE, and I hope to get things working this time around. So hopefully I think we have a better chance. And also, speaking of DTE, DTE Gas is doing some restoration work. They have to complete their work on Oxford, Lakeshore Lane, Shoreham, and some work on Colonial. And I've also been notified that Colonial Road will receive its new gas mains in service next year. I think they're decided to kick the bucket down the road for this winter and maybe get started as the weather changes in the spring. Also, you may have seen Pipe Tech in our community. They're currently cleaning out our sanitary sewer systems. This is something that's done through our SAW grant. The field work is about 90% complete, and when this is done, the reports go to our engineering staff. They review the tapes, and they make recommendations on repairs, and we hope to see those recommendations made early of next year. So this is something that we've been waiting for a long time, and they seem to be moving forward. We've had very few troubles with them, and so far, things are working out very well. And on that, on behalf of your Public Works Department, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays and a happy Thanksgiving, and if you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Thanks, Brett. Have we found any surprises from the videotaping or videoing of?
I have not had the "you better get out here right away" call. So far, the calls that I have gotten, I know exactly where they're at, and we already know about the problems, so that really makes me feel good.
Okay.
But I'm sure we're going to have things that we don't know about. That's what they're here for, and I'm sure they're going to find some repairs that
Okay.
we're not aware of yet.
Any other questions? Oh,
Just, they're about 2/3 through with that program. Brett and I met with Frank Verichelli earlier the week, and as Brett said, he's very detailed records. We're looking currently, Brett's preparing how to fix the few that we found. There were no surprises as part of it, and a couple things are just dig up and fix at one location. There'll be some lining that we have to do, but all anticipated for the most part. He knew where the streets were bad, so
okay,
it
good.
pretty much followed that.
That's good.
I think once we get everything compiled together, we'll come up with a plan on how to
Yeah.
attack the whole situation. So we will
Good.
see what we have first. So.
Well, good report, Brett. Thank
Very
you.
good, thank you.
Park and Harbor, Bob?
We have not had a meeting since the last agenda. We're projected to have the next meeting in January 2018.
Okay. All right, good. Legal report, Brian?
Sure. Since the date of the last city council meeting, the city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. First, you might remember that we prepared a memorandum, or commented on a memorandum agreement between the city and Grosse Pointe Woods regarding lockup and dispatch. We've since made a few minor revisions to the agreement, which, are not material to the city's review of it. We're waiting for any comments that the city may have on that agreement, and then we'll get it wrapped up and shipped off to Grosse Pointe Woods. We conferred with the city planner and city manager city management, city manager and others regarding the 707 Lakeshore Road lot split application that was on the agenda for tonight. Reviewed the ordinances that were applicable to that application. We reviewed the city planner's analysis regarding the application. We prepared follow-up comments for review with both the city and the city planner. We conducted some legal research regarding the standard of review that is applicable in appeals to the circuit court from final decisions of the zoning board of appeals. We also conferred with the city regarding the sale of the lot at 57 Michaud Court. The high bidder on that property, or the only bidder on the property, as it were, went dark for a period of time, and we didn't know whether they were still interested in buying the property or not. And then just this past week, a week ago, we got in touch with the title company who was supposed to write up a title commitment and set up a closing. And just today, I got an email late this afternoon from the buyer, from Randazzo, indicating that they're ready to go forward. So we'll get that squared away. We also have continuing discussions going on with the city, with council for the Southeast Macomb Sanitary Sewer District, and the city engineer regarding the proposed wastewater treatment contract that I mentioned to council at the last city council meeting. We're preparing comments for review on that contract, for review with the city planner and city management before we transmit it to council for the authority. Council for the authority's deadline to get that in place between the several communities involved is January 20th, I believe. We've corresponded with him and indicated we're going to have some comments for him shortly, but again, we want the city to, and the city, I said planner, I meant engineer, city engineer to look at that one more time before we ship it off. And then finally, most recently, we responded to a claim of personal injury alleged to have occurred on Larned Lane last summer. And that's my report to council. Glad to
Thanks.
answer any questions.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions of Brian? Otherwise, okay, good work, Brian. Mark?
Well, first I need to indicate, well, I'm happy to be here. Today is my wife's birthday, and she's now finally as old as I am. We share the same year, but I can't say when, or I'd be in deep trouble. But we celebrated her birthday last week, a little early, at Disney World, so it was great. Mentioned earlier was the holiday tree lighting this Sunday at 6 p.m. We thank those folks who help us each year with the setup, and it should be nice. Santa Claus and his friend will be here, and we enjoy everybody coming. Rhonda mentioned the donations for the Capuchins, the 4 Paws, 1 Heart, can be dropped off public safety or upstairs as well. The council meeting for Tuesday, December 19th will also be our volunteer holiday luncheon. We invite many of our vendors to come, and we thank all those people that serve on our boards and commissions. The harbor study that's been underway with the follow-up on the tennis court bids and things like that, Chief has pretty much completed his work and has done quite a bit of analysis. Brett has done quite a bit of his. We're putting the information together. We'll be sharing that with the Finance Committee prior to bringing it to council. We are working jointly with the other Grosse Points, with the exception of Grosse Point Woods, who decided that their city clerk is going to do their census work upcoming. But in the past, all 5 communities, and I think Harper Woods, were done through us contributing money to the chamber, who hired a staff person to do that. And that, I thought, was the day, but the same program going forward this year. But the chamber, Jenny has already gone through the preliminary training, and I forgot the acronym for it. But again, we'll be doing that, and we'll be contributing somewhere around $4 or $5 grand as our share. They're picking up a staff person to do the thorough research and follow-up on the 2020 census. Then finally, in keeping with the letter of request on our behalf and that of Grosse Point Farms, we received a communication back from the Corps of Engineers that their Detroit district has accepted our joint project. It went to the Great Lakes, whatever GLFER stands for, and I forgot. They've accepted it. However, we didn't get Great Lakes restoration improvement funding for this year, but they feel the Corps is appealing to a different source, as well as we ranked high enough to get funding perhaps next year, or if there's additional funding that people can't spend this year, that will be proceeding with the study of the improvements along our shoreline, along with Grosse Point Farms. And we're in the process, we'll be meeting with the new staff person from the Corps assigned early in January, and we're certainly, either our offices or Shane's in the farms, keeping our congressional delegation informed about this as well. So that's always helpful. Then I also wish to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Have plenty of turkey, but don't fall asleep afterwards. So.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions for Mark?
I do. Concerning the park, where are we with the gatehouse? And any additional drawings, renditions that we will be able to act upon as soon as this is all ready to go? I mean, I just don't want to wait, oh, okay, now we're ready to go, now we've got to get drawings and we've got to do
No.
this. I mean, where are we with that?
Well, we have had at fairly minimal cost, I think it was at $2,000. John Vitale Architects look at it for improvements on the inside. He has prepared 2 sets of drawings on external things. And of course, we're looking at putting that into a reasonable funding range too. So there was some cutbacks there. As soon as I feel that they're complete with some other cost estimates, we'll be happy to forward them to council.
Yeah, and as soon as there's some sketches or drafts, you know, council needs to look at it, so, you know, everyone's comfortable.
It's part of the overall plan with respect to staffing requirements and other things that have been suggested, from cameras to Wi-Fi for the system there and all kinds of stuff, so.
Okay. Mark, has our application for historic building status been approved, or?
The application for the outside marker has been approved. We're waiting the draft language.
Oh, okay,
We should have that soon.
okay. So maybe in early next year will be, okay, by
Yeah, I
spring?
think it takes a while to get, Rhonda, did we didn't pay yet for the marker.
Is it $3,500 for the marker?
Yeah,
Was it-
and it's a 2-sided marker, which will go in the grass in front of the entrance exit here. And we're just waiting for the draft wording. And we'll have it, you'll see it in case there's any changes, but our developed part of it, and it's being reviewed by the Historic Commission at the state level.
And typically, the governor would send a delegate or somebody to, you know, the one I'm familiar with in Huntington Woods, that's what happened.
We'd certainly be happy to have someone. Well, I guess now after the November election, we do have a state representative, which we didn't for so long.
Okay.
so.
Okay, well, that would be,
Yeah, we'll make sure all of those are known and we can do a certain ribbon cutting or something.
okay, good. Thanks, Mark.
It's done.
No other questions? Well, no, old business, we don't have any new business. The actuarial valuation report, which is in your package here, we're receiving and filing it for 2017. I know Sandy Rodham was kind enough to come to the pension meeting. Are we going to invite her to come to the council meeting, maybe, to explain? I think it's necessary.
Usually she
She
hasn't.
came, Ted. It's 45 minutes. Felt like I was in a 10th grade geometry class.
She educated us. We felt, you know,
I'm
enlightened.
so sorry I missed that pension board. I flipped a coin and won that time, so.
Well, I think it was an hour and a half
Let's give
at the
her a-
pension
let's give a
meeting,
heads up when
Bruce,
that
so.
happens.
There is a real concern, though, with the timeliness of this report. Okay, it
Yeah.
could still, I mean, we're looking at November for a June report, and it's delaying the auditor by over a month this year. So I think there's great concern on the part of staff and myself as well, that we've got to have some discussion about getting this thing done in a more timely manner. And we paid her $15,000. This isn't chump change, this is significant resource.
Yep.
And then next year, she's got to do the healthcare one too, right? So that's even more.
Rhonda, we signed an engagement letter. In the engagement letter, could we put some kind of time frame? We don't have an engagement letter? Okay. I would expect,
We'll be in contact with her.
We might want to think about putting it out for bid. You know?
well, I know she came from, was it Gabriel? At one time,
Yeah.
she was a spin-off, and she
and
created her own
both of
firm.
Her key staff people are from Gabriel Roeder. And we frankly cut our costs almost in half by using her. She's really good, but she's busy all at the same time.
Everybody has the same deadline, because you have to be June 30th, and so everyone wants a report done in August and September. But you're right, well, maybe that's a good thought, Bruce. Okay.
It may motivate her.
Okay. Well, I need a motion to accept her 2017 annual actuarial valuation report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. The second item for new business is Public Act 152. Mark, you want to summarize this?
Yeah, this is, the state requires there are three potential options for us. The city council has selected the 20% contribution for employees as part of the public funded healthcare insurance act, and this is required each year at this time for us to put in place. And it's also, when the state, the governor, administrative staff decided to eliminate statutory revenue sharing and create this EVIP program, we have to have that, this is one of the requirements for that. And Rhonda's in the process of already filing for that.
And it's really not a requirement anymore for the EVIP funds. But they still want each community to have one of the three options. You can opt out a hard cap formula or the 80/20.
And Rhonda, is it correct? I think we first voted on this in December 2011. I think, and the savings were about $93,000, I think, to go to an 80/20 plan.
Yes.
I mean, it is a large savings.
So,
And that's one of those things that does tremendously help.
I mean, it's bitter medicine, but it, it saved us almost $100,000 that first year, I believe.
Done this for every.
Yeah.
The new hires, yeah.
Well, I need a motion to accept the recommendation to approve the 80/20 cost sharing arrangement for compliance purposes in 2018.
So moved.
Is there support?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, and C, it should be on the agenda, but Brett's so happy to come and talk about the Grosse Pointe Shores Improvement Foundation, and for the next, well, I think it's important that it be part of our agenda in future meetings, so we're going to make sure it's a permanent part of the agenda.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
On behalf of the Improvement Foundation, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. A couple of quick points to talk about, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Joe Limon, the Vice President of the Foundation. First and foremost, last October's fundraiser, the Celebrate, Decorate, Entertainment, was a huge success. We had 163 attendees, and we netted over $12,000 in one afternoon. So hats off to Heidi and Fran for that huge fundraiser. That's what will happen again next year, 2019, not 2018. Also, the paver project has been reinstated. We put in 18 new pavers along the boardwalk and around a splash pad. And our 4 projects that we had talked about earlier in the year, the grinding of the splash pad has been completed. We'll be painting that next year with Brett's help. The brick wall, of course, has been done and paid for. The seascapes are done and paid for. And again, I just found out today also that the baby pool lantern is here, and hopefully we'll get that in the ground soon. Another project for us. And really, this Sunday is, of course, the tree lighting, and the Improvement Foundation will be there to have some hot chocolate and have marshmallow fight with Santa Claus and get some good things done. But Joe wants to talk to you about a new idea he's had as far as some new projects for the foundation. I'll turn the microphone over to Joe Lamont.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, good evening, and audience. You recall that I've been a little bit vocal in here about the other items that were going on with the pool, and one of the things that I stand by is my statement about having data to support a decision, not just making a decision based on what we think, what we feel, or what people tell us. And so in that vein, Brett and I consulted with a market research person who offered services for free to help us come up with a very quick 5-question survey so that we could generate data within the foundation that would guide us, and it's called an advisory survey. And I've got copies because there's a time limit going on here. Our newsletter goes out in December, and with this newsletter, we would like to provide this survey to the residents to fill out and have back to us by the first week of January. So there's a very short gestation period so that people, if they get it, they see the date, they'll be more inclined to return it if you give them too long of a gestation period and they let it go, they don't submit it back. And the reason that I'm coming up with this idea is first to get resident input into what they think about the proposed projects that we have been discussing amongst ourselves as trustees and officers, and we're looking for feedback from the residents. But we don't believe we can do this without endorsement by the city council. We don't want to do this ad hoc. We want it to be a cooperative venture. The foundation is willing, if it's approved by the council and endorsed for this submission, then the foundation will cover the cost of having it printed, having it delivered, and then collecting it, and then disseminating the data, doing the analysis of the data. And it's a little bit selfish because the foundation would like to have this data at our fingertips once we collect it, so that when people discuss ideas, we have some data to support whether or not people would support, the community would support it. As you know, the foundation is funded by donations and contributions based on fundraising. So the monies that we get aren't very much, but we want to just, use it wisely in conjunction with city council and city recommendations. So we don't, in other words, we're not, I've got copies I'd like to distribute so that everyone can see what the questions are. They're very simple. There's some demographic questions about, for instance, how many people use the park in the wintertime? And then there's a section of answers, is it rarely, once a week, once a month, twice a month, or never? And then summer, all 4 seasons. Then we ask about the specific current amenities the city offers, the tennis courts, the pavilions, the swimming pool, the splash pad, the Schroeder House, the Hill, the baseball diamonds, the soccer fields. So we get some demographic data that tells us what the utilization of the current facilities are, which will help substantiate our decision-making to go forward. And then, as a collaboration between, we don't think, the foundation is not, in a way, we're a separate entity from the city administration, but really, we work hand in hand, because without your approval and without our, our ideas working together, then, nothing really can happen. But what we're doing with this survey is getting some resident input so that we can provide, as shown a few weeks ago or a couple months ago at the council meeting, when a resident brought in a survey or a petition of 112 signatures about the gatehouse security issue. So that inspired me to say, you know what, if that was something that swayed the council to act upon that particular issue because of the, the validation of the residents, then I would feel that doing a survey like this and getting some data would help us to better address ideas and enhancements to the community in a collaborative effort.
Okay.
Go for it.
Joe, would they be numbered? Would these surveys be numbered so that you have some internal control? Otherwise, I wouldn't want a resident to make 10 copies and then...
Well, the way we're going to, Lynn Kurtz is handling this, distribution. She's putting together a newsletter, and she asked me that question. I said it would have to be a yellow. I want it to be like this, sticks out, and we can possibly put down a number on it, a serial number, 001, or so that it is controlled. And then we can also disclaim it, hey, this is not to be copied. The original needs to be returned. So if we get a white copy, we know it was copied because it's going to be yellow. And then we're going to we have 2 choices. One is to provide the address of City Hall. They can mail it, or they can drop it in the white box. And then we would work with Lynn or whoever is in the administration to collect those, and then go back to our market research analysts and have them help us disseminate the data and, provide a disseminated report. And we would be willing to share the data with the city. It's like I said, it's not we're doing this for ourselves. We're doing it so that when we come together, we can say, hey, you know what? 70% of the return surveys, a lot of people brought up this idea. We hadn't thought about it. Because what we're hoping to do is also generate interest in the community for the foundation's purposes and goals. One of the questions we ask is, are you a member? You know, are you a foundation member? And if you're not, then maybe there'll be, and part of our letter that we send out is our fundraiser for membership for the year. So we're hoping that we generate new membership, because we are in a position right now where we need new trustees, we need new officers. And I take over from Brett in March. So I'm hoping that by March, by that meeting, we'll have some good data to generate discussion, and then also bring back these issues to the city.
Joe, you have pool improvements. I mean, do you have any ideas? Because I understand the first survey, it was to deepen the pool.
Right.
And one of my neighbors cautioned me against that.
Yeah, yep, and that's why we said pool improvements. We're not looking for specific, you know, in other words, if somebody says pool improvements, then, you know, if we get a, say, the first thing that I'm trying to do with the survey is generate interest. To me, the success of the survey is if we do not get more than 10% of the surveys returned, it's not a significant survey. There's 1,270 households in the city, and if we get less than 130, the survey is really invalidated, because it's statistically impossible to derive any conclusions from that small sample rate. A good sample rate, according to our market research analyst, was we needed to get at least 20% back, which would be about 260. So,
Well, there's 2,300 voters, so I would do it based on
we're
like.
going by residents.
Okay.
Resident, is by
It's a
resident.
household survey.
That's a household survey, right. And one of the issues, sadly, the conclusion that we may have to make is, if we don't get 10% back, that means people don't really care. That's what it really.
I don't think that's a fair conclusion.
Or they're in
I mean,
Florida,
or they-
you know.
Well, I'm serious. That's what, one of my, why I'm doing this, is finding out how many people actually care.
That's not necessarily a conclusion. They may not be interested in your particular questions or
There's-
about the park.
There's
They might be a
there's
resident.
5 separate questions, if you want to read them out loud for the.
I realize that, but you're asking people to give a lot of thought about what they think for park improvement. Some people may not actually feel that those are, they may be happy with what it is.
And there's 3 suggestions at the very end.
Sure.
The questions, and then a final comment area.
But to characterize people don't care because they don't
Well,
fill it
I
out,
mean-
you may be frustrated because people are.
Well, it is, it's very
Your
frustrating right
frustration,
now.
I understand
It's
that,
very
but it's-
frustrating because we've basically become a foundation of maintenance. The 4 projects that we did this year are all maintenance projects. And we identified that we were able to do it quicker through the foundation, providing the funding, than through the normal bureaucratic processes the city has to go through because of bidding processes, the wording, all the requirements that the city has to go through to, get the bids done. There's, you have all these engineer analysis that have to be done. I mean, the process through the city, that you're constricted by laws. Whereas what the foundation can do is, be a little faster by saying, we'll go through the city to do things, and we'll pay for it so that it gets done.
So, this is the fall newsletter that the foundation's gonna send out, that it's delivered to every home.
Right,
That talks about the activities and, request for membership, and then there's a donation. So you're gonna have this as an insert in there,
Right.
a yellow insert.
Right.
And then you're gonna have a return envelope, where does the resident have to dig up an envelope?
Well, that's
because-
another idea. I mean, we can put a self-addressed stamped envelope in. I mean, we'll pay for that. I mean,
That's expensive.
well, 1,270 times what? We get a bulk rate discount.
40 cents, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. But to me, it's worth the money to spend to find out.
I'm just trying to understand the mechanics. If you're asking us to give you a green light, so I'm gonna get this in the mail. I'm gonna have either a self-addressed envelope that I can stick it in, fold it, and drop it at the white box, which I'm gonna have to be there before January to pay my taxes.
Right.
Or my water bill.
Right.
So there's a reason to come by.
Right. Or you can just mail it back in.
And I'm gonna be obviously, and then, you're gonna compile the data.
Right.
Hopefully have a statistically valid sample.
Right.
Publish the data, share it with everyone and say, this is what we learned.
Right.
One question.
We're just trying to find out what people are, what gets them excited about the city and what things they would like to see improved. You know, we're trying to get away from just trying to guess what our way around.
Question number 8, it says, are you currently a member of any civic group supporting? I don't understand.
Are you part of the beautification committee? Are you part of the harbor committee?
Okay,
You know,
so
it's just-
should it
it's
say,
just
are-
so that, I mean, we can reword that. I mean, this is a draft.
Okay.
So, you know, if there's any improvements that can be made to the survey.
Well, you need to run it through spell check. There's a bunch of spelling mistakes. Advisory is misspelled and
Okay.
Schroeder. Joe, the only thing I would think, I mean, if I got this and I say, I'd start checking community building, yes. Pickleball court, yes. Pool improvements, yes. I'd have a lot of yeses, maybe even strong yeses. But I wouldn't necessarily know what the cost is. A community building, someone said, I think I'd like to see approximate cost.
Well, the problem with doing that is the foundation isn't looking to foot the bill for the whole thing.
No, I'm not saying, and I'm not
It's to
suggesting that,
fundraise.
right.
To be, so.
But it'll influence the reader. It'll
Okay, so
influence
if we
the,
get, say if we get 200, say, just a wild guess here. Say if we get 300 surveys back. And you have, out of those 300 surveys, 150 people put down community center. And 20 people put down pickleball. The foundation then has a way to say, okay, you know what? We got a strong response to the community center. Then we now have to do two things. First, we have to bring it to council, say, are you willing to go the next step with this? If we can go out and raise funds and create excitement in the community to do fundraising, because I'm sure, I mean, Grosse Pointe Shores has a unique position in that it's one of the wealthiest communities in the state of Michigan. I believe it's the 4th wealthiest community per capita. And I think if there's some civic-minded residents that would see or, you know, want their name involved, that you might get enough excitement and impetus behind an idea that you can, the foundation and the city can approach or, you know, get it out in the open and say, you know what, the community would really love to have this. What can we do to fundraise for it? What can we do to spark interest, to see if we can get enough donations to do something like this? You know, if that, this is all an idea. I'm just going with a thought here. What I'm trying to basically say is, we have no direction right now. We're just shooting from the hip. And to me, that's frustrating. Because, you know, we don't want the foundation to just be a maintenance organization.
well,
And actually, the timing is critical because we're going to send this letter out by the December 15th, I think, timeframe, which is what, 3 weeks? 3 weeks from
and it
this.
won't increase your cost if you include it, so the thinking is to do it.
And if here's the other thing, if you guys object, this is as far as it goes. No other residents know about this. Whoever's here knows about it, but no other residents. In other words, we're not willing to do this for the sake of doing it. We want your endorsement. And if
So
you don't
who's gonna
endorse
be
the
the-
idea, then we're done.
Who's going to be the market research person? Is it the Shores resident?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yep.
Okay.
And she put together a questionnaire, and
Mhm.
she so I'll tell her that her spell check's not working. No.
Well, yeah. Well, how does the council feel about this?
And I mean, I would say that since it's a short time, I would say if you guys could give me a decision, or the foundation a decision, by Monday, December the,
Decide now.
what is that,
Well,
the
We gotta
11th?
make a decision today, we can't.
I'd like to see a final draft.
Well, just give me an email and I'll,
You know, you send it to Mark and he'll distribute it around.
okay,
because-
all right.
Yeah.
And then
Problem
Brett's
is,
got
Joe,
your
we
email?
But we gotta vote though.
We got to vote on it because it's not something we can do, you know, on a
And I know we were on the agenda.
Okay, okay. Well, I think the idea has a lot of merit. I mean, in my mind, I would like to know, you know, as an accountant, I'd say, pool improvement, sure, if they're done under 50,000.
Well,
You know,
that's, Ted, he's not even at step one.
Right, I know.
Step one is how much is it gonna cost? This is, should we even, you know, what state do you wanna live in? You know, maybe country.
You know, we just want to find out what, you know, and then plus, this puts a little bug in the president's ears about the foundation and.
Well,
what
that's
we're trying
true.
to do.
That's true. It's good advertising. Well, and you'll use color paper, something that can't be reproduced
Right, yeah.
for control? Well, I mean, I don't have a problem.
Well, why don't we
Again,
make a motion to approve the surveys, subject to a final draft of it being circulated to members of council not later than
When's your next council meeting?
19th.
Well, so we, I don't know what, is that?
Is that too late?
okay for-
It's too late.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was gonna say if we wanted to wait till the next council meeting, but that kind of kills our
No,
timing for the
Let's
survey.
say by the end of by December the 1st, can you have it done by then?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
I would say that Monday, well, no, I gotta give time for the printer. So the,
No, I'm
Right,
asking
yeah.
for the draft to be out to us by the 1st
Oh,
of
yeah,
December.
yeah.
We don't need to
definitely.
find it.
Yeah, we don't.
Let's put the serial number on it. I
Okay.
think That's.
And I would phrase it that unless someone objects to the draft, as
Right.
the final draft is sent to us, unless they object within 24 hours or 48 hours, you've got a green light to go. That way you don't have to, you know,
Right.
chase 7 people, 8 people down to do
right,
it.
so we'll get correspondence right through Mark then.
Well, and Joe,
Is that
there's,
okay with you, Mark? Do it that way?
I think if there are suggestions from council as to more specifics in here, you should get that to him pretty quickly. Get it to me and I'll get it
Yeah.
to you quick.
okay.
I mean, with email,
Yeah, we can do it.
Now, Joe, there's 3 adults in
Is that a
my,
workable plan for you then?
yeah, I'm,
Okay, we can do it that way?
Joe, there's 3 adults in my household right now. So will I get 3 surveys or 1 survey?
It's a household survey.
it's a house.
That's how many children in your household, or do you have children, how many? So, I
Okay.
mean, although they're older than 18.
But if they're
they-
adults,
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
children,
they're
but,
not children, but
But
there
you're-
are
How do
children.
you treat them?
well, we have 1,100
Like
homes. You're gonna
children.
send out 1,100 surveys.
Okay,
Like
so that,
children.
you could, we can,
She'll
that's
be
where,
under
if you have
9.
if you feel strongly about that, then revise it and we'll add, we can add a
Well, I
line.
don't wanna complicate this. I don't wanna make this,
trying to make
This isn't the census in
Right.
2020.
It should say household survey, though.
Yeah.
Your comments up front is to all residents.
Right, well, because we're sending it out as part of the newsletter,
But the newsletter goes to a household or to a resident?
by household.
1 per house.
I would say one, well,
And Bob, your idea to have a control number then?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. I mean, color
Okay.
paper doesn't
Sure,
really.
sure. Okay. I'm in favor of that.
Control number, maybe instructions, because I just know we're gonna get phone calls saying, I lost my survey, I want a new one.
oh,
So
boy.
maybe at least give us guidance upstairs how to.
I don't know.
That would solve it with, because you're not gonna get 2 of them back.
Well,
If you got
no,
number
what
25 is
number-
missing and gone,
She's
you
anticipating
send them
any kind of
another one.
question. She's probably dealt with this before, yeah.
But they won't keep track of the numbers
they
per
won't know the
addresses,
numbers.
so they won't know what number hasn't been, what number's been lost.
But the goal really is to just get data, and then, you know, once we find, you know, like I said, a resident may come up with an idea we haven't even thought of, and
Well, that's good.
it
I-
might be something for discussion.
So we're in favor of the concept? I mean, with the modifications that were suggested
Yep.
with control numbers
So
per
by-
household?
By 12/1, have the
Mhm. Okay, I
submittal
think that's fair.
from council, and then we'll return.
So that
Have
would-
your draft to us by the 1st of December. We've got 48 hours to say yea or nay. And if we
Well, you
say-
got till Monday, actually, right? Because, I mean, you know,
I
it's
don't
a
know.
holiday.
I'm sorry?
You've actually got, what's your time frame that you're gonna provide me with your revisions?
Revisions from tonight, you mean? Or-
No, after, what I'm saying is, you said you wanna take this and look at it,
No,
and,
you're gonna make your changes and you're gonna get it to everybody by the 1st of December.
right, but I don't know what those changes are to be made until
He's
you
saying the
put input
modification
into the
is-
document.
What we just said.
our corrections or our modifications.
You already know you got 1 and 8 and you got an advisory, so you're gonna go through the thing again with your
Spell
correction.
check, right, but if there's any other,
They've got
Revisions.
till December the 1st to get back to you.
okay, okay, I got you, I got you.
Okay, and then you're gonna send it, you close the book December the 1st.
Right.
You send it back out and you say yay or nay, and they got 48 hours. They don't complain, make any changes within the 48-hour time frame.
Then we're good.
You've got a green light to
Okay.
go. That way, because otherwise you're gonna sit here trying to chase
Right.
7 or 8 people down before the holidays and Christmas. That's not gonna-
understand.
Good luck.
You're not gonna get,
Right.
The reason this timeframe's so quick is because we want to be able to have some return of surveys by our next trustees meeting is in January. And so we'd like to have some kind of,
but you got a free mailer too. It's not gonna cost you twice to mail. Because you're putting it in the
Right,
newsletter.
right.
Right.
That's the big
Exactly.
driver, because people are more inclined to look at that than anything else. You send them a letter that's just like that, that's going in
Right.
nowhere.
And they may get excited, and they may increase their membership, or they may even
exactly.
consider it, so
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
everybody wins.
Okay, Bob, you made the motion, I think, or with modifications? Was there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you,
you.
Brett.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Public comment? We have any public comment? I see George is in the back. He may want to make, he's a council member now, huh? Council comments, Bob?
No, I have none, just happy Thanksgiving and,
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Tina?
Congratulations to Bob and Bruce on another 4 years here on the council. Very happy. And Matt Seeley, who will have him next month. Merry Thanksgiving to everyone. That's it.
Thanks, Tina. Bruce? Any
I
comments?
just want to thank everybody for their support in reelecting me and continuing to, that's the good news. The bad news is I won. Got to continue to do this. And I also want to just welcome Bob back and missed him very much. I'm glad to have him here with us.
Thank
Sorely missed.
Yeah, thanks.
I want to thank everybody. It's really good to be back.
Good to have you
Thank
back, Bob.
I've missed it, and very happy to be back. And thank everyone for their thoughts and prayers, and have a great holiday this weekend.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, I second Tina's, congratulations to you guys, and look forward to your mentoring for another couple of years. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Doug. And a few comments for myself. The next council meeting is Tuesday, our third Tuesday, December 19th at noon. The reception is approximately 2 o'clock to honor all our volunteers, the officers of the Improvement Foundation, Mary, the Planning Commission, the Board of Review, the Beautification Committee, Tree Committee, Pension Committee, Chuck's in the back there, Finance Committee, Park and Harbor. I mean, all the wonderful volunteers that make this a special place to live. And it's just a small token of our gratitude to you. We're going to finalize the appointments to the various boards and commissions next month. Like I said, we've been talking about splitting the Park and Harbor to 2 committees so that, because there's enough activity to support both committees. And then Mark told me that in the old days, that's the way it was. Park Committee was separate from the Harbor Committee. If anybody's interested, this is still the time to submit your interest sheet to the city offices. It's already been said, Santa's coming to the village this Sunday at 6 o'clock, I believe. Santa usually comes on a nice bright red fire truck, and he really excites all the children that are here. We always have probably, about 100 people, or 75 to 100, 125 children and adults, so it's really a good time. And I mean, this is Thanksgiving. This is the time to be grateful for all we have, and we've been blessed. We live in a special community. We're protected by special people, our employees, and they're really not employees. They become like part of the family. When you call, they're calling, they're returning the call as a family member, as an extended family member, and that's what makes this community so special. So we have a lot to be thankful for living in this part of town. Our next meeting is December 19th. I need a motion. Well, actually, at this point, we're going into closed session to discuss a legal opinion regarding pending litigation At this point, I need a roll call vote to move into closed
Wait,
session.
before we do that, can I make a suggestion? I know last year, typically the December meetings are very quick, and there was that big lag between the meeting and the luncheon.
Luncheon is going to be following the meeting pretty quickly.
Okay, so I know he said 2, and we know the meeting is at noon. Okay, 1, okay.
One,
There
if
was
not
a-
earlier. It'll
You know,
be all
people
set.
were
Yes.
toying with leaving, coming back, leaving, you know, so if we could just have it follow the meeting, that would
It
be
will.
great. Okay, good.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks, Tina.
Yep.
So, Bruce, I need a roll call vote to move into closed session.
Okay, roll call vote, Councilmember Barak,
Here.
we need aye or nay for going into closed session.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
I said aye.
Councilmember Ellis,
Aye.
Councilmember Gazelle,
Yes.
Mayor Kaczynski,
Aye.
Councilmember Cusick.
Okay, at this point, we're gonna,
And Councilmember Fizzball, sorry. Still feel bad.
so at this point, we're going in closed session. We will come back in open session, and anybody is welcome to stay. So stretch your feet and turn off your mics.